And it all comes down to taking responsibility for your life and not blaming others for where you are or where you aren't. And not blaming your wife or your kids or the customers or the weather, and just saying, you know what, how could I be a better leader? How could I trust myself more so that I could lead this team stronger? Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a 7-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Sales Made Simple podcast. Jon Valenta is back on with me this week. What's going on, Jon?
Hey, Joshua. Always a great time hanging out with you and talking about our many years of experience in this industry and hopefully helping some people out.
I appreciate it, brother. I always enjoy our time together too. And, after all the years we've been together, out here doing similar things and only, about 2 hours away from each other the whole time. It's pretty wild.
Yep.
But today I want to get into something that hits right in the center nerve of most business owners when it comes to the idea of growing, right? Everybody wants to grow. They want to build their business, make more money, take more vacations, whatever it is for you. But there's the idea of growth, right? Nothing in nature stops growing. It's growth or death. There's really no middle ground. A tree grows and grows and grows, and if it stops growing, it dies. It's quite simple, right? So it's the same with business. The same the way that God wired us is for growth and for purpose and mission, right? So with all of that, the one thing that I learned along the way that I find is really, I look back at it, it's so simple but so powerful, is this idea that trust starts in the mirror. We all talk about scaling businesses, but we run into the problem where when I go to delegate stuff to other people, they just don't do it the way I do it. So I don't trust them, or they're not going to do it in a way that I think is great. So I don't trust them. I also just do it myself. Like, what's the point in spending all that time trying to train somebody? They're just going to mess it up, right? So at the end of the day, we struggle as business owners to delegate things and to trust people. And I'm going to challenge you listeners this week to wonder if it's a trust in other people or a trust in yourself. That was what I had to face. Was it that I didn't trust other people, or was it that I didn't trust my ability to lead them or to guide them or to set up the SOPs or to follow those SOPs once I set them up, to put standards in place, all those kinds of things? Did I know how to do that as a leader? Did I even want to follow that as a leader? Is that the reason why I got in the business? Was it to create these things and be the steward of them and lead them? Or was it to make more money than I would if I worked for somebody else? To build really cool stuff with my hands because that's a gift that God's given me, that I love taking ideas and turning them to things I can touch and sit in and be in, all with my hands. Those things come easy, but when it comes down to trusting other people with those ideas or my baby here, this business, that was a challenge for me, Jon. How was that for you?
Yeah. I think there's some similarities to last week's episode of a priority shift and taking pride in doing everything yourself. And that saying, if you want it done right, you do it yourself. Nobody else can do this but me. But there's only so much you can do all by yourself. There's only so many things you can get done in a day. And there's only so much your business is ever going to go anywhere if you have to do everything. So it's definitely a priority shift. And like you said, trusting yourself before you can then go trust other people and put the trust in them. And I know I struggled with it years ago. I want this project built the way I want it built, and it's all in my head. And how could I possibly walk away unexpected to get built right? We're given a lifetime warranty in this job. What if they don't compact in the corner right? And then we have to go back and fix it for free. So I'm just going to have to be here. I'm going to have to do it all by myself and maybe have a helper to push a wheelbarrow occasionally. And it's a priority shift because we're not really going to go anywhere if I have to do every single task.
Yeah. And you certainly won't grow in the sense all you're going to do is grow in the amount of responsibility you have. And if you're not willing to delegate and hand it off and trust others with it, right? But we go back to, how do we begin to trust ourselves? If that's what we're solving for here, how do we trust ourselves more so that we can delegate better, that we can communicate clear, all those kinds of things? And we need to become the leader that can do this, right? That can be scary, dude. That can be one daunting looking mountain when you look at it and you're just like, wow, do I even what did I get into this for? I got into it because I didn't want to work for somebody. I wanted to create my own schedule and I wanted to build things with my hands. Now all of a sudden you're telling me I got to learn leadership? Like, I'll just keep this thing small. There's no point in hiring more people. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have more people around, because at the end of the day, it's not fun to have to hold other people accountable. Hell, I struggled for many years to hold myself accountable. How the heck am I going to hold someone else accountable when I don't even have a schedule? If you listen to the last episode, I barely had a schedule. Like, I couldn't be accountable to what I was going to do tomorrow. I didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. How can I possibly have a calendar scheduled out for tomorrow? Like, I'll see what happens in the morning. And that's the thing is, that'll only get you so far. That kind of take it day by day is going to get you so far. But if you want to grow and you want to be able to provide more for your family and you want to build a business that you're really proud of, it's going to require you to grow. And I always say the biggest chokehold on most businesses is the owner. Because the business will not grow faster than the owner or the leader of that business. And if the person running that business is not a leader, because they don't want to lead, they just want to build stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't expect tons of growth. Expect to own your job. And again, nothing wrong with that. But it's about setting expectations. I read a whole chapter about it in the book. It's all about setting expectations, right? So if that's your expectations, then that's fine. Go do it. But if you truly deeply want to grow and you want to make this business be something that you can hand off to your kids or something you can sell or something you can be really proud of, whatever that might mean for you, you're going to have to figure out what you need to become in order to get that, right? Because if you don't currently have it, you got to become something more in order to get something different. So the question is, what do you want? That's always the primary question, right? What do you want? And figure out how to get there. So when it comes to delegating things and trusting things, the way I've found as far as trust goes, in order to build trust in yourself, is to say things and do them. Build trust by believing yourself, right? That's the first thing. If you're somebody who says things like, yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow, I'm going to get to this, and you never do, and you do that over and over and over again, each time you don't fulfill that spoken word, your level of trust of yourself, not of what others trust you for, but your level of yourself goes down. And every time you have the discipline to follow through and hold yourself accountable to the things you say and the things that you plan and you schedule and you get done, the more you do that, the more trust you build in yourself. Right? And it's like the adage of if say you struggle with alcohol, for instance, right? Like when you see alcohol, you have to have it and then you can't stop, right? I know people that way. Good brothers of mine are like that, right? And they've been through that season. We've walked that season together. And the biggest thing at the end of that is having the accountability to know that, you know what? They can walk past it now with the accountability, with their own trust, and know that they won't pick that up. That's a trust that's built from reps and reps. And sometimes those reps are ugly and dirty and they don't work, but it's doing it over and over again. And eventually they're like, you know what? I have enough trust in myself to know that I won't touch that. That starts to build trust. If you don't trust yourself, how can you trust other people? Same thing could be with your time. We talked about that the last episode about scheduling things out and prioritizing your family time. How can you trust yourself to prioritize family time when you don't? Yeah. It's all for my family. Not really, right? At the end of the day, it's not, because they're the ones that get the scraps. Truthfully, if it was about them, they would get your first offering, your first of your day. They would get the first block in your calendar. They get that priority first. And next up would be everything else that needs to be done. But it's doing that, and it's holding that trust and trusting yourself that you will be accountable and follow through on your own values and principles. Like, for instance, in the morning, one of the things that I do is I take a cold shower. After my workout, I take a cold shower. I don't skip it. Every single day I get into that. We have like 50-degree water here in Pennsylvania. Every day I get into it. And every day I'm like, I'm so blessed to be able to do this. And I don't like it. If I'm being fully honest, I don't look forward to it, but I love it. And the reason why is because it gives me an opportunity each day to do something that I don't enjoy, to continue to show up and be accountable to an oath that I took, that when after I get done working out, that I take a cold shower. That's part of my rules. But when I don't do those things, I stop trusting myself little by little. If I'm like, yeah, I could just take a warm shower today, that'd be fine. You could. You absolutely could. But then you won't trust your own accountability. And if you can get to a point, because I didn't used to have accountability that way, you can get to a point where the disciplines that you've structured your life with, that you stick to them. Every time you do stick to them, you trust yourself more. And then when it comes to trusting other people, it's so much simpler to do that. Because as you hand those different things off and you hold them accountable, you know that you'd hold yourself accountable to that too. And you would actually do it. That changes everything, because you can't fake this. You can't fake trust for other people. If you can, you're just winging it, and it's not going to last. But when you can trust yourself and the accountability and the disciplines that you've put in your life, and you can trust yourself to do those each and every time without, well, you might have complaint, but you're still going to do them anyway. That cold shower, there's times I put my feet and my hands in there for a moment before I jump in, and I'm like, yes, thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. This is going to be great. And I have to reprogram what that means, because I was like, a warm shower would be so much better. But I also know that it's a great way to defeat that monkey in my brain that keeps telling me, this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No one's watching you. Nobody would know. If you went with a hot water instead of cold water, you still got a shower. I would know. I would know that I've let myself down. I would know that I let my word down. I would let down my brothers that I've instilled this with, right? I would know that. And if I did that over and over again, I would start to feel less and less trust for myself. Like, does my word mean anything? So it's really a matter of going back and looking at it and say, okay, what are some things, some disciplines I can put in my life that when nobody's watching, I still hold true to? And constantly keep showing yourself that you can be accountable to yourself in the truth that you're trying to hold. And once you have that trust starts to help you trust other people and delegate to them. So I know that was a kind of a soapbox moment there, Jon. So what are your thoughts on that?
You're making me want to take a cold shower tonight.
Let's just pause the podcast. I'll go do that and come back all jacked.
Yeah. Don't stop. You'll end up getting soft, and you let that one go, take a warm shower. Then before you know it, the next thing goes and the next thing goes, and you're just a mess. It's the simplest of things, like making your bed in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Yep. My mother isn't, I don't live with my mother anymore. She's not going to come and check if my bed's not made, but it's going to be made every morning. The simplest things, like going to the gym, like eating right. I don't care if everybody around me's eating chips or cookies or ice cream. I'm not doing it. And it's like self-pride.
Yeah.
And
it's a discipline for you, right? It's a discipline. You've made that rule.
If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And when you don't, people notice. Your kids, your employees, your clients, you start slipping away, and all of a sudden they don't take you for your word anymore.
Yep. It's a slippery slope. It goes pretty fast. And I can remember raising our two sons, and my wife has always been very focused, being a chiropractor, like just more focused on health and nutrition. I come from the farm, so for me it was meat and potatoes and vegetables, right? Pretty basic stuff, but I didn't think a whole lot about what I ate. I just really didn't have much awareness to it. I was hungry. I put it in my body. I wasn't hungry. I was happy. But I didn't really think much about that. Like, I used to eat at McDonald's and Burger King. I used to eat at those places. I didn't even think twice about it. I used to drink soda, all of that stuff. And when I met her 22 years ago now, like, she started to open my eyes up to this and like, do you really know what you're putting in your body? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just not hungry anymore. She's like, what? You have choices, right? There's different things you can decide to put in or not. So it really helped me start to see things in a much broader perspective. Like, the decisions I make now and the disciplines I have now and the rules that I create in my life, my principles and values, like, those reflect and those will show up later. Those aren't things you see in a day. Those are things you see over a lifetime of integrity and all these kinds of things, right? So when we started to look into that, we both started to eat a lot better because we came together with that and kind of decided what that looked like for our family. So I fast forward it now that my sons are 18 and 16 now. And when they were younger, we obviously had mostly just whole foods in the house, and not that we were perfect, by no means. But we were very mindful of what the kids consumed, and we would have them look at the food. Like, they would want candies and things like that. We'll look at the ingredients, and they would look at that. I said, if you can't pronounce the ingredients, it's probably not good. Not guaranteed, but it's probably not great for you. And they laughed and they giggled. Well, we didn't take everything away, but we certainly did switch things up. And funny enough, when they'd go trick or treating, because they could do that, they came back with their whole bag of goodies that were all just not good for your body, right? And my wife, she instilled this idea of the switch witch, which I had never heard of before. And she's like, what we're going to do is, we take some of the stuff out of the bag and we switch it with something that's better for you. My kids didn't like that idea at all, but they played along, right? They didn't like the idea of losing the Snickers bar and getting like a salad for it, right? That wasn't going to work. But she had like I don't know, like gummy stuff or whatever that's more nutritious, that's actually from real fruits and things like that. So anyway, she would do that. And so I chuckle with that because now with them being 16 and 18, they've introduced us to this app. I think it starts with a Y, Yucca or something like that. That's on their phones. And I can't even make this up. They weren't very aware of the type of food they were putting in their body. We were, and only kind of allowed certain things. And they looked forward to going and out to dinner with friends, families or whatever, or their friends, so they can get whatever they wanted. And they'd buy the weirdest stuff and they would eat the things that you just kind of give them the side eye for. But I was like, they have to go through that process. Well, now with them being 16 and 18, they've got this app on their phone. I'm actually going to pull it up here so I can get the exact name in case anybody listening finds this interesting. That they scan the labels. Yucca, yeah, YUKA. It's a free app. And you can scan the labels. Yeah, you can scan the labels. Yeah, YUKA. You can scan the labels on anything you buy at the store, and it'll give you a rating. And it'll tell you why it rates it that way. 100% is like really, really good for you. And a 0 is something you probably should not consume and probably not even good enough for humans to consume in general. And it'll tell you why. Mostly it's additives or salts or sugars or something, or just whatever dyes or things that are in it. But we don't become aware of these things until we become aware of these things, right? So this app helps you do that. And this is where they walk around, not just our house, but at the store. Like when we're going to get something from the store, my youngest, which I'm really surprised because he used to just eat, he loved garbage food. Like he just loved it. And when he could get it, he really enjoyed it. But now he's coming to me as he's starting to broaden out in his body and becoming a young man. He's like, I don't want to put that crap in my body. So he scans stuff. And if it's not over a certain percentage for him, he just won't eat it. And it fascinates me because he's come 360 around this, and it's awareness, right? But there's also, back to what we've talked about the idea of trusting yourself. I can see a trust building inside of him where he's like, I know I won't do that. I know that I'm going to take care of this body. I know that I'm the steward of it. So when he starts to do that, you can see this trust that shows up in other parts of his life too, because now he's holding to the word or the rules and the structure of life that he wants to commit to. And listeners, every one of you out there can do this in a different way. It doesn't have to be just the way we're talking about here. But the goal here is to start trusting yourself and trusting your word, following through on the things you say you're going to do. That's how you build trust internally. And that's how you can then extend and grant that trust to others because you already trust yourself. That's my biggest mission with this conversation this week is the idea that trust comes from within. It starts in the mirror. And if you don't trust yourself, you're going to have a heck of a time trusting other people.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like being on time. If I can't be on time, I can't expect my employees, or if I can't be on time for my clients, they're not going to trust me. It starts with you.
It does. And you have to model that. You can't just say, hey, you know what? You should be on time, to your point. You got to be on time, be on that meeting, be on the job site, and you're always 3 hours late. It just doesn't work. They're going to be like, well, dude, look at this guy. He's always late. That must be the standard. So I don't really care. But in order to start that trust in you and build that discipline, because I don't know about you. Actually, I do know about you, right? When it comes down to this, when it comes to discipline, you're a very disciplined man. And I love that about you because it actually, so many creatives out there, and I used to be one of them. That's why I can say this, think that structure and discipline completely destroys creativity. Because if I'm going to be creative, man, I just got to be in the moment, man. And I don't want any kind of schedule because I don't know when it's going to hit me and all this kind of stuff. And that seems like really heavy to have, some kind of a discipline. That's what those other guys do. I don't do that. I just kind of react in the moment, and that'll get you so far. But it's not going to be predictable. It's not going to be scalable. It's not going to be valuable as much as it could be. I believe that structure and discipline that builds trust in yourself and others is one of the greatest freeing agents there is. Because when you have structure around, all of that other stuff, that's just that random chaos, starts to disappear. And now you have scheduled time for creativity. Now, let's face it, even when I was writing the book, I didn't sit down every day at between 8 and 10 and write. I did many days, but there's times when I just wasn't creative at that moment. Or I wasn't in that box, or I wasn't in that mindset. But I will say that putting that in my schedule, if I wasn't between 8 and 10 in the morning, I would move it to, if I had space in the afternoon, for between 3 and 5 in the afternoon and try again there. Next thing you know, my body just got used to being creative in the morning. That's when I typically am most creative. And then 8 to 10 was no problem. But I gave myself the grace to know that I'm not always that way. But because it's scheduled, I knew it was taken care of. So when I got there, everything else was clear. I didn't have other things to think about. I could be in that box. As a male, I think in boxes, right? I pull this box open, it's podcast box. We're going to talk like this, right? I'm going to have a conversation with John today. It's going to be awesome, right? And then all of a sudden I put this box away and my next box will open. And my next box, like, I think that way. I know women don't, but I know I do, right? I know a lot of men do that way. We're very singular focused. But knowing what box I'm going to be in allows my brain to prep. And here's the most beautiful part, John, tell me if this ever happened to you. When you schedule things out and you look at your schedule the day before you get, say you go to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you look at your schedule for the next day just to prep in your mind where you're going the next day, my brain starts to work on solutions already. It already starts to plan what's going on. God already starts to intervene and starts to put some words in there. Like, by the time I get up the next morning, I have more clarity than I went to bed with. Not every time, but often. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah. And actually, I think it helps me relax because I can look at it and I know what's happening tomorrow. And everything is planned out, and I'm not up all night worrying what's going to happen because I already know. And I know, obviously things change and we work outside and things come up that, we didn't plan for, but basically things are scheduled and planned, and it helps me relax.
Yeah, because it's the old adage, and you've probably heard me say it 100 times, but clarity brings confidence, right?
Yep.
Clarity brings confidence. When we're clear on what happens in this case the next day, we can be confident moving into it. Even if there's things in there that we don't know how it's going to work out, we can be prepared for it, right? As prepared as we can possibly be. And when you have confidence, so clarity equals confidence, and confidence moves mountains. So it is really that clarity is the starting point. The way we get clear on things is to sit down with them and plan them, lay them out. Like, let's strategize. Let's lay this out. You don't have to be a strategy expert to be able to put things in a schedule. And once you start doing that and laying that out, all of a sudden the amount of trust you have in yourself and the trust your team has in you then raises and raises and raises up. But it all starts with how much you trust yourself. That's where it all starts. That's the seed of it all. So listeners, if you're out there and you're struggling, you're like, look, I don't know that I do trust myself, or you're not aware enough to realize you don't, because I certainly wasn't. It took me a while to realize that I was the problem. It's so much easier to blame everybody else, John, isn't it? It's like, this one's late and this one didn't show up and this one doesn't know what they're doing. They're just idiots. I wish I could find good people. These people are just dumb. I don't know what's going on. Maybe instead of being the victim, perhaps you spin around and say, what could I do better? Right? How could I lead them better? When you take accountability for that, you trust yourself to be aware enough to not just blame everybody for their problems, but say, how could I be a better leader to help those people? Together we can solve this problem. But that requires you to take a look inside and possibly be the problem, right? I knew I was the problem a lot until I realized, all right, wait a minute here. I am the problem. How do I become a better leader? And that set me on a 10-year journey out into personal development land and eventually to God, all through trying to figure out how I could be a better leader, because I finally trusted myself enough to know that I was the problem. That if I didn't work on myself and my awareness and all that stuff, that I would never be the husband, the father, the business owner, the leader, the brother, the best one I could possibly be. But I had to first stop, trust myself enough to know that I couldn't blame everybody for it. The only person I can blame was myself. And when I did, boy, that was a tough pill to swallow. That was a really tough one to swallow. But I tell you, it has made all the difference. And we talk about peace, joy, love, and fulfillment in our lives and everything that we do and having purpose with it all. And it all comes down to taking responsibility for your life and not blaming others for where you are or where you aren't. And not blaming your wife or your kids or the customers or the weather, and just saying, you know what, how could I be a better leader? How could I trust myself more so that I could lead this team stronger? It's a realization I hope some listeners out there pick up on. I hope they say, you know what, man, I've been blaming people. I've been the victim, and I'm sorry, but victims don't run companies. not successful ones at least. They own jobs that they probably will hate and despise and regret over time. But if you truly want to make a difference in the world and you truly want to become the very best version of what God created you to be, it's going to require a lot of introspection. It's going to require taking accountability for your own stuff and learning how to trust yourself. Learning how to trust yourself and see what you do when nobody's watching. That's really where it shows up. Like when I go out and walk each morning with my wife, or I go out for walks during the day to break things up and to recuperate from the last episode, right? Just to get some time to recuperate. I go along and every single time I'll find garbage along the road. And I've been walking past it for years, unaware of it. And I walk along and I'm like, freaking lazy person threw that out. Look, it's mostly beer cans and McDonald's bags. It's like, oh, that's the kind of people that do that. Just slinging judgment and blaming them and being a victim that I had to see all this stuff. And why are people such slobs? I would never do that. And I stopped and I started asking, I'm like, what kind of questions am I asking here? My question at that point was, why are people so lazy? That was my question. When I saw that, that would come up in my mind. I'd be like, why are people so lazy? And then I walked along and I was like, it's, again, God's incredible, right? All of a sudden I started realizing that it wasn't people throwing these, some of it was. A lot of it was the garbage trucks. Because we have all those big articulating arms that come out the garbage trucks and they pull the whole can over the top and come down. And if it's a windy day, anything lightweight, not necessarily the beer cans as much, but the like the wrappers of things in the plastic bags, they would blow out because they aren't in a bag. So I noticed then that on garbage days or one day after, there was more garbage along the road. So then I'm sitting there thinking like, wait a minute here, this whole time I was blaming other people for being lazy and disrespectful. And it made me have like a down opinion on humanity. And I realized it had nothing to do with that whatsoever. It was a garbage man, right? And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, if that's true, first of all, I feel better now because I don't feel like people are just not caring. But I'm like, what can I do to make this better? It's one of my other primary questions now. I'm like, well, I can go along as I'm walking and I can do squats and pick garbage up. And that's what I do. So I get an extra workout now. This is a beautiful benefit. I get extra workout and our plan stays cleaner and I feel good about helping out. And it shifted everything for me, but no one sees me doing that. My wife might, but I don't go around with a bag saying, look what I'm doing to I'm the one that's saving no. I'm only sharing this with you because it's an example, not because I want anything for it. It's just the fact that what do you do when no one's watching? That really is a determining factor of what kind of character you have. Do you talk on social media about how you do all these amazing things and work out and climb this or do that or race that? And then when the camera's off, do you just go back to, binging Netflix? Like seriously, like what is it? Like at the end of the day, true character is what you do when nobody's watching. And for me, walking along and picking up garbage is just something I do because I think it's the right thing to do. I don't want anything for it. I just think that the whole nature doesn't deserve. One of my rules is that nature doesn't deserve to be destroyed like that. It's so beautiful and so perfect that I just want to do my part to try to keep it that way. And that's what I do. And I get exercise out of it too. I get those squats in there. But it was a realization that I thought in the beginning that I don't trust other people. I don't trust them with stewarding this beautiful thing we have called the earth, right? I don't trust them with that, to realizing that it had nothing to do with them at all. And then what could I do to make a difference? So it's a big shift in meaning, right? A big shift in how I saw that situation. But I still go around and pick up water bottles. I'll still go around and pick up things that I find. There's some old garbage, old bottles that I find in the woods. I'm like, they weren't there last week. Of course they were. They've been there for years. I can walk past it or I can do something about it. And I choose to do something about it. Just like listeners, you get an opportunity to choose whether you want to, if you struggle with trust, what are some things you need to start trusting yourself with? What are some things that you don't do when nobody's watching? Or some things you wish you would do? And how can we start working on those today? Because it's little steps. We're not talking like massive, massive things. It could be as simple as picking up garbage when you go for a walk. It could be as simple as saying thank you or opening a door or being grateful. There are so many things you can do to start this process. So, John, I've been talking a lot. What's on your mind?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I mean, if you don't post a selfie of yourself doing that, I'm not sure it actually happened.
Oh man, you see it all the time. And now with AI, you're like, did that even happen? Is that even the person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it starts with yourself. I mean, blaming other people isn't going to get you anywhere. It's how can you set the better example? How can you set better expectations? It's it's definitely playing the victim is not good.
No. And when you say better, you're not referring to being better than other people. You're simply being better than what you were yesterday,
Yes.
right? It's always that growth of being better than what I thought I understood yesterday. Do I understand a little bit more today? Could I be more valuable today, more useful today to God? Can I help with these things instead of judge people for them, right? How could I be that conduit to help somebody see the truth instead of just trying to knock them down like everybody else does, right? Those are choices that are made. But if we don't trust ourselves at the end of the day, we're probably not going to step into that situation to even try to help, right? So listeners, I really hope through this episode you've had the opportunity to kind of think about, all right, well, I really want to grow. I want to delegate. I want to do all of that. But perhaps the first step for me is to start trusting myself. So come up with a list of 2 or 3 things that you wish you could trust yourself with, and then start working on how to each day work closer to trusting yourself and holding your word and say, you know what, I'm going to walk 10 minutes in the morning and stick to it, especially when it's hard. I'm going to take a cold shower, and not because I like it, but because it sucks. And if I'm willing to do the hard things on purpose, what else could I do? Watch how your life changes. It is wild how this stuff works and the ripple effect of these things. And when you do it from the right space in your heart, the right space meaning just because you want to serve and help other people, not because you want something from it, everything changes. So John, thanks for coming back on here. I always enjoy our conversations, especially around, the whole concept of trust starts in the mirror. You can't outsource that until you actually have it. And that requires work, and it requires you going into the dark places, and it requires you to be really, really honest with yourself and hold yourself accountable and be disciplined. And those are all words that tend to push people away from this entire environment. But I'll tell you, the biggest freedom comes from those words. The biggest freedom in life comes from those words. And when you can step into that arena, the challenging arena, and do it on purpose and keep showing up, no matter how bloodied you are or how beat up you are from the day before, you grow in a way that only these types of experiences will help you grow. So listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll talk next week.